Hey everyone, it's January 11th, 2017. I'm here in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada at Joslin's MMA with the man himself, Jeff Joslin. Thank you so much for doing this.
Good to have you.
Yeah,
Pleasure.
it's funny, we finally get to meet. For those who don't know, it's been a few years now. When I first got back in the martial arts, I was training out in St. John's, Newfoundland under one of your students, Mike Sampson. And I happened to just never be around when you showed up. And so now after about 5 years, here we are at your club too.
That's a small world.
Yeah. So this has started. How did you get into martial arts? I heard it's a very long...
Yeah, it's my dad was a three-time Canadian karate champion, Rick Joslin, and so always, martial arts was just what I was around all the time. We grew up on top of our gym, so always waking up to the sound of kids running and training and everybody making noise. It was just normal for me to be around martial arts. So my dad put me in when I was about 4 or 5 years old. I started training for about, I think, 5 years, got my blue belt in karate, but I was kind of wanting to play hockey, all the time, like my friends. So I kept asking my dad, can I quit? Can I quit? Can I play hockey? So he finally let me quit when I was about 10, and started playing hockey for a few years, and had a good time doing that. And then I almost got in a fight in high school. And a lot of times I think people were afraid of my dad, so they didn't really pick on me too much, right? But this guy didn't care, so he was picking a fight with me. So I started training. Excuse me. I started training on my own, coming down and hitting the bags, and knowing that this fight was going to happen. And then I just kind of stuck it out from then. So I think I started back around 15, 16 years old. And then got serious after that.
And then so when you started, you're doing karate with underneath your dad, and then so how did that progress to MMA and to jiu-jitsu? And
so I did karate. And my dad always had a bit of a kickboxing flavor, because they were the first generation of full contact karate fighters. So we always had heavy bags. We always had a ring. So it was a little different than traditional karate school. So I did a lot of karate tournaments in that. I think I did like 200 to 300 tournaments in karate over the years. And then that progressed to one day I came across a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu videotape. Actually my dad wanted me to just start learning Jiu-Jitsu, but I didn't really want to learn it, because I was a karate fighter, and I was having fun doing that in the world scene and fighting and competing in that. And then he gave me this video, and I watched this video, and I was like, wow. It was Renzo Gracie. Was like the first instructional ever made, I think, for jiu-jitsu. Renzo Gracie, and an American guy, and I was just hooked instantly. Just the technical aspect, and just how complete it would make my game if I could become a grappler, because I was still worried about being in a real fight against someone, because what if you get tackled, what if you get taken down? So I think it excited me to be able to, make my game more well-rounded. And seeing Royce Gracie be so successful, that was about the time when the second UFC was on. That was the first one I watched. So to see him be so successful, I knew there was something special to it.
That's cool. So did you say your dad got you into it?
He did. He'll make a joke. I remember one time he threw me a jiu-jitsu book. He's like, start reading this. We're going to start teaching jiu-jitsu. I'm like, get out of here, Dad. And actually one of my students, I think, brought the videos. He's like, Jeff, check this out. So he ordered them, the VHS tapes back then. And that was it. I just started watching the videos, and then I became addicted. So I started studying. We started putting classes at Joslin's. This was, I think, over 22 years ago, I think we started. And I started teaching like classes twice a week, just with the moves I learned from the videotapes. And I started writing a book, all the techniques I learned from the videotapes. Then some seminars came around. The Gracies came a few times, and just collecting anything I could learn. I had to try to hold on to it, because I'd never have another chance to access it. So just started studying like a madman and training and just one step in front of another. Ultimately, I ended up getting my blue belt and then progressing from there.
That's cool. So how did you end up with Alliance then?
So there was no instructor, no Brazilians in Canada teaching at that time. So it was just videotapes and just seminars, and then I was Googling, keeping an eye on who was coming to the States. So Carlson Gracie Jr. came to Chicago, and that was fairly close. So we ended up going down there and training for 2 weeks, and then I was supposed to get my blue belt under Carlson Gracie Jr. And then I guess something happened. They couldn't do it. I had to come back for a grading day. And then just unfortunately they didn't call me back, and it was a miscommunication, and I didn't end up going back for the grading. But I remember when I was there, one of the doctors that I met had traveled all over North America and trained everywhere. So I said, what was the best place you went to? And he said, Alliance in Atlanta. So I had never heard of Alliance. And then I just Googled it, and I decided to go down there just because this one guy told me Alliance was the best place he ever went. So I went down there, and then I started training with Master Jacare. And at that time, the highest blue belt, I think the highest belts in the United States were like blue belts at the time.
Yeah.
So he had some blue belts. It was the highest belt in the club. So I would be rolling with those guys. And right away, very, very tough, but very, very friendly. They treated me like, one of their family. And then I felt, right at home right away. So I ended up traveling back and forth over the years, and I got my blue belt that first year. A year later, I got my purple belt.
Nice.
And then kept traveling and training and taking all the methods that I learned there and bringing them back to our guys. And we trained hard here. And then I got my brown belt, and then ultimately got my black belt 13 years after I started.
Nice. And that you were the first Alliance black belt in Canada.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was definitely an honor for me. The Alliance team is unbelievable team. So many great athletes and great fighters. So it's an honor for me to be a black belt under Master Jacare Cavalcanti, and to be Alliance black belt. It means so much to me to progress from white belt all the way to where I am now.
That must have been quite the ride, though, getting that black belt and all.
Oh yes, pretty weird feeling.
Yeah.
You look in the mirror and you see a black belt, and you're like, oh, there's a black belt here, and then you like realize that you.
So 13 years of doing BJJ, and then at what point did you decide you're gonna go into MMA?
So I think my ultimate dream was to get into MMA. I think that's the best place to challenge yourself as a martial artist. You can talk the talk, you can do this, do that, but that's a real fight. And when you have that type of experience, I think it makes you a better instructor. When you as someone who wants to go learn martial arts and learn how to defend yourself, you want to go to somebody that has been in a fight. You know what I mean? Who's been in a situation where they've had to use their skills. So it's proven. So I thought if I could get to that level and fight professional MMA, it's going to make me a better athlete, but it's also going to make me a better teacher. And ultimately, my goal is to do martial arts and follow my father's footsteps and become the best teacher I can be.
I was going to say, you look at the family. It definitely runs in your family to kind of test your knowledge on
maybe he's a bit of, my dad's pretty intense. He's quite a fighter, I like to think I got to some of his best fighting attributes and toughness and stuff, and so I felt that there was always that inner spark. Even when I used to play hockey, I used to run into guys and smash everybody. I was a skinny guy, but I was strong on my feet, and I think that kind of feistiness and that willing to test yourself and not not fear pain or fear that challenge. I think it played a big role in me wanting to go into mixed martial arts. And it just for me, I'm not an aggressive person. I'm pretty passive, pretty quiet. But I think for me it's a technical game of chess. It's like who can be. I always try to search out the most techniques. I ask 1,000 questions to my coaches and try to become the best I can be technically. Because you could be strong, you could be fast, but if you don't have technique, it's not going to matter.
Yeah. So when you got in MMA, you got into UFC, kind of like the golden age, right? Right as the TV show has started, and then it kind of went exploded everywhere.
Yeah, it was a long road.
Yeah. So how about you tell us about that? Was there, because I know it back then it wasn't easy for especially Canadian fighters to get into that.
Fought my first fight. I think I wanted to win something big in jiu-jitsu before I fought MMA. So my goal was to win international tournament and then start fighting MMA. And I kind of wanted to start fighting MMA at 27. I think because Royce Gracie was 27 when he won the UFC. And so everything kind of happened according to plan. 2002 I won the Pan Ams in at purple belt, and then that year I started fighting MMA. And I lost track of the question. We were talking about
getting into UFC.
Yeah. So I ended up finding my boxing coach, Vito Brancaccio, and then he showed me a ton of stuff before I got into my first MMA fight. Ended up winning that fight, progressed a bunch of different fights. I had a really a fun fight against John Fitch, who ended up going to the UFC and going undefeated for 8-9 fights in a row. Then I tried out for the reality show the second season. Sent my video for the UFC Ultimate Fighter, and they said, they were calling me and they were going to bring me to Vegas for further testing. And then they asked me if I was outgoing, and I just said I'm kind of average, you know, like middle. And I was like, no call back. I was like, oh, I think I screwed up. And then I went and drove all the way to Boston throughout the night with my buddies, and we tried out for the 185 season.
Okay.
So I think I made it to the final 10 that time.
Okay.
And they just told me straight out, you're too quiet for the show. And I was just like, and they asked me some questions that had nothing to do with fighting.
Yeah.
So
not enough of a personality they were looking for the TV ratings.
I didn't fit the mold, you know.
Yeah.
I didn't drink enough alcohol or whatever it was, you know. So it was unfortunate, really disappointing. But then I just kept plugging away, and I ended up winning the Apex Championship belt against Nuri Shakir. Had a good fight against him, and then I got the call to fight Josh Koscheck. They called us and they said nobody in the division wanted to fight him at that time. They all kind of said no, they needed somebody in short notice, and we're like, let's do it.
How does no one want to fight him? I thought it was. During that work to get into UFC, like you must have had to do a lot of traveling to go down to US to do fights?
No, I actually fought in Quebec. So
really?
I fought in TKO, and actually TKO is back now running shows, so it's kind of cool to see them running it again. So that was the pretty much only place in Canada you could fight, and there was no amateur, so I had to go pro right away. And I remember I was fighting jiu-jitsu, and I was finishing up my karate career. I remember they always gave me an invitation, said whenever you're ready to fight MMA, just call us and we can fight in TKO. So that was kind of cool to have that opportunity. So we fought out there. George St. Pierre, I think he had 3 or 4 fights when I just started, so we were in the same division, and we all kind of came up through TKO there. So there was a lot of guys that ended up getting to the UFC from that organization.
Nice. And how was that? I mean, like you did that first fight on short notice, like that must have been like quite like the nerves.
I've been, well, you know, the good thing about it, I always drew my confidence from that. You know, this is all I've done my entire life. You know what I mean? So why be nervous? You know, I've trained everything that I could do since I was a kid at karate, kickboxing, hundreds and hundreds of tournaments. You know, I boxed with some of the best boxers in Canada and training with my coach. I did wrestle with the universities. I did jiu-jitsu for, you know, some very big tournaments and stuff. So I just kind of fall upon all that confidence. You know, really, I think confidence comes from your past successes. So I tried to build up all my successes so that when I get to the level that I wanted to be at the UFC, you know, I felt just excited to fight. You know, and it's a special place, a special moment, being in the cage, fighting against a guy when you're in top shape. And this one, my camp went perfect. I was still in good shape from my last fight when I won the belt, so it just kind of carried over to this fight, even though it was short notice. And I just felt really, really good. And I also do a lot of mental training, so I was kind of self-hypnotized and train myself to think positive thoughts. So when I got out there, I was ready to smash them. You know, big smile, and just felt really good. You know, the only thing that threw me off was the first time in the UFC cage, and it was so big.
Oh, really?
Like, man, it was monstrous. So the guys could run around in circles for days. So that kind of threw me off a little bit because I didn't even get a chance to go in the cage before the fights because there was prelims, and it was on a military base in San Diego. So I couldn't get a chance to feel the cage out. I usually like to bounce around a little bit.
Yeah.
And it was big. When I got in there, I was like, wow.
Yeah, I was thinking like getting used to that kind of environment. Yeah.
You don't hear anything. Like in a fight, no sound. All you see is like a tunnel vision like this. So even though they said 5,000 Marines was louder than 20,000 people, I couldn't hear a sound. So when you're in the zone, you don't hear anything.
Yeah.
When you're getting your ass beat, you hear a lot of stuff. You hear the crowd, you hear this guy yelling this. You're like, man, you're not focused. But when you're in the zone and things are going well, you don't hear anything. So it's, you know, fortunate that way. As I'm sure, being a Canadian on a U.S. Marine base, I'm sure many people weren't, not that many people were cheering me on. You know?
Yeah.
I was an underdog.
Yeah, exactly, right. You know, and you see a lot of people that are like, when you look at their record going in the UFC, you know, they look like great fighters, and then they kind of get like almost starstruck of being on that platform, of being like having all the noise around them and in the cage.
And you also got to realize, you got to see what's your record leading up to. Right? You could have fought 15 easy guys, be 15-0, right? Yeah. I think that you know, we had a good feeling that we would be ready for anybody they put in front of us. You know, having a great fight with John Fitch. And just I did some traveling and trained in some big places with a lot of fighters that are on TV at the time and stuff like that. So, you know, I was able to do really well in those places as well. So it just gave me a lot of confidence, and I knew you know, I was ready to give my best and leave it all on the mats. against Koscheck.
So nowadays, you're here pretty much, like, you run this gym full time, right? And this has been, like, this is what your dad ran it as well. So, like, a lot of history is here, right? So how, given your experience you have both on the different platforms, how is that kind of, I guess, affect your,
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I had my UFC fight, had a 3-fight deal, got a concussion in training, couldn't fight my second fight against Chris Lytle. I was supposed to fight him, and then I couldn't. It threw me on a kind of a spin, right? I couldn't train for a year and a half, couldn't even exercise. So when I got better, I was like, wow, I probably shouldn't take shots in the head anymore. Too many years of hockey contact and boxing and kickboxing and MMA. My brain kind of said it's enough, so I had to reinvent myself and read books and learn more about business, and I couldn't train at that time, so just got started developing. I still had my teaching skills because I've been teaching since I was 17. My dad threw me in to teach when I was 17, so I had that to fall back on. So I ended up, creating curriculums and using the discipline that I used to become the best fighter I could be. I used it to become the best teacher I can be, the best entrepreneur I can be. So, I tried to, improve the systems and different things that were going on here. And definitely I think a lot of the stuff that you learn as a mixed martial arts fighter or any type of athlete can be applied to the business world or applied to anything in life.
Yeah. As I was looking around, I see, like, there's a lot of history here, and I see, like, you have different classes. You have the kickboxing classes as well as the jiu-jitsu classes, and you have kids classes as well. So, and you were saying you kind of added your own kind of curriculums to them all. So would you say it's just from, like, a mix, I guess, of the different
I would
experiences?
say, I think when you do a class, the best way to learn martial arts is not put it all together. You know, so in jiu-jitsu we do jiu-jitsu for an hour or 2 hours. Kickbox we do an hour or longer. The kids are learning simple stuff. They're not fighting with contact. They're learning how to just do the movements in a very safe environment. Most people don't spar. They just learn and get in shape and have fun. And then we have sparring classes for those that want to spar. So we have an options for everybody, right? So I spend an equal amount of time with my professional and amateur fighters as I do with the regular, regular guy that comes in just to get in shape. So I try to be here as much as I can and give my all to the club. This is my dream come true to be able to do this. So I'm going to be doing this as hard as I can for as long as I can. And it's I'm very proud to follow my dad's footsteps. When I started martial arts, I just wanted to not embarrass the family name. It's like, how am I going to live up to my dad? And then one foot in front of the other, one step, and just hard work. And now I feel very proud to be able to carry on what he started so many years ago.
Yeah, it's awesome. As I'm setting up this, I was looking around, I was reading the articles, and I was like, there's a lot of history here. There's a lot of memories, I guess, on these walls.
Yeah, I read them myself. I don't know a lot of stuff I don't know. My dad doesn't tell me a lot, so I have to read the articles.
Oh, really?
Right? Yeah, so definitely a lot. And stuff that I even forget. I've been doing this so long, I look at some of the pictures, I'm like, oh, that guy, where did he go? And this and that. I remember that tournament, and it's definitely in just this building too. I was probably here when I was a baby. So it's pretty cool to have this as my basement, and now my mom still lives upstairs, and it's the legacy continues of the martial arts family. So it's been fun.
Yeah, that's that's amazing to be able to have that. I'm sure there's many out there that that's their dream, is have their own club and just be able to run that full time and pass that on. And
I think that, in life we have a short life. We're only here for so long, so I think we have to chase our dreams and try to find a job that doesn't feel like work for you, and whatever it is, follow your passion and enjoy every day, because we're not promised tomorrow, right? So enjoy every day and treat people well and have fun and build good memories. Sometimes I thought, just from a personal perspective, you're chasing, I just want to get to the UFC. When I get to the UFC, then I'm going to be more happy. I'm going to be happy in my life,
Always
and then you get there and you're like, wow, wait a minute, I'm not any happier, really. It's about the same, So I realized, I chased it all those years to one goal, and then you realize it never adds up to what you thought it was going to be. So I have, I kind of think of it this way: if you're not happy with what you have now, you'll never be happy with what you get. So enjoy making the memories with your friends, having some good times. Integrity, being a good person, and just living every day to the best you can be.
Yes, and training.
Training, honestly. And I think this martial arts is all of that combined. I think there's no room for anybody with attitude, and you have to be humble, right? Because we've all got our butt kicked 1,000 times to get to the point we're at, right?
Yeah, it's what part of what really drew me in coming back, because I did in high school, and but now as an adult, and you're sitting there, and I'm like, everyone has a different view on life on the mats than at work or whatever, right? When I was at work, and people are kind of down on everything, or just my friends from talking online, everyone is kind of nitpicking about everything, right? Like always seeing the negative, and then they go to class, and I was like, wow, everyone is so happy here. Like we just spent a couple hours training and sweating and choking each other out, but everyone's so happy, right? And that's what made me want to keep going back again and again. Awesome. And
I think it's I think I take that for granted too. Like, being here for probably 90% of my life, and being at home the other 10%, whatever it is. I think, you're around such positive, like-minded people in martial arts. And if you haven't tried martial arts, you got to get out there and try it, because you'll meet some of the nicest, most humble people, but the toughest people that you can meet too, right? And it's a weird combination. So it's definitely, I find a lot of people out there, they can be negative thinking. They can be, they can always be blaming others for, they're not being happy and this and that. But in martial arts, you kind of learn that your results and the situation you're in is all because of what you put in. If you don't put the work in on the mat, you get your butt kicked. And the same thing with life. If you don't work on your weaknesses, you're going to be in the same situation forever, right? So, I'm happy that you're traveling and you're doing living the goal of yours. Exactly. It's awesome. It's great to have you out today.
Well, thank you. It's been awesome. Every day I'm still kind of coming to terms that I'm actually doing this, going out and being able to meet people like you and do these interviews and just get on the mats with everyone. It's as I'm hearing, it's everyone's dream. You travel a bit too, right? You do the odd seminar. Is there how often do you go off and do?
I do seminars and workshops, throughout the year. I try not to do too many because I'm so busy here with the gym. And I have I have a son, Tazen, a daughter, Kaya, and a wife. So balancing life, is important to me, and I'm constantly trying to improve at that. So I just, when I can, I get out and teach seminars. I really enjoy meeting other people and rolling with different people and sharing the stuff that I've learned over the years.
And being like where you are, like we're in Hamilton, we're close to Toronto, we're close to the U.S. Do you get a lot of people coming in for seminars?
Yeah, we have our seminars. We have a pretty big team, so a lot of our guys come in and train. But we do have a lot of people visit, like yourself, and from all over Canada and the United States, and different guys when they come in. We've had a bunch of guys, nice guys from Texas, come in and roll lately, and just all over the place. And like I said, right away, they're like one of the boys, right? They're one of the girls. So I'm really proud of the atmosphere here. I think I try to keep a good atmosphere where new people feel welcome, and they're not like fresh meat, And I'm happy with the way my advanced students and all the advanced guys, they treat the new people. So it's a good team atmosphere. I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, it is. I feel very comfortable here on the mats with these guys. And if you're in Toronto, if you're in the area, head out to Hamilton and check out Joslin's. Thank you so much for this.
Thanks a lot. My pleasure.
And to all you, that's it for now. Until next time, see you on the mats.